Hello, you are listening to the Wellness Project with Des. I'm your host, Desiree, a mental health therapist and holistic wellness coach. On my podcast, I interview experts in the field of mental health and wellness, as well as those who share their firsthand accounts of their mental health journeys. These interviews will give you many tips, tools, and strategies to improve your mental health, as well as give you hope, support, encouragement, and inspiration on your own personal mental health and wellness journey. Thanks so much for being here. I would greatly appreciate it if you took a moment to leave me a review on iTunes and leave the podcast 5 stars on Spotify. It really helps the podcast to grow, which in turn helps me to keep bringing on amazing guests and spreading mental health and wellness education and support. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss an episode. Are you ready to embark on a transformative journey towards holistic well-being, unlocking the full potential of your mind, body, and spirit? If so, I'm thrilled to invite you to my program, the Holistic Wellness Transformation Coaching Program. My one-to-one coaching program is a comprehensive and individualized approach to help you improve your overall well-being. As a holistic wellness coach, I'm here to guide you on a transformative journey to attain balance and harmony in all areas of your life. With personalized coaching sessions, I'll offer guidance and support throughout your wellness journey. Starting with a thorough holistic assessment. We'll dive into your past, habits, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and patterns that may be holding you back and no longer serving you. This assessment forms the foundation for your customized wellness plan. Together, we'll explore the 8 foundational elements of wellness to ensure you feel balanced and aligned with your goals and your values. This program goes beyond the surface, providing you with mental and emotional support. I will help you to manage stress, anxiety, and other challenges such as perfectionism and people-pleasing, offering techniques and strategies to enhance your resilience and your skills. The benefits of this program cannot be overstated. I'll be there every step of the way to support you in achieving balance and harmony in your life, manage stress, and improve your emotional well-being. Nurture healthy connections, create lasting, healthy habits, achieve your goals, and gain confidence in your ability to transform your life. Join me on this journey to holistic wellness. You could go to my website to check out my various packages, and you could go to my Calendly link found in the show notes to schedule a free 30-minute consultation call where we will go over the 8 core areas of wellness, as well as your goals and your dream life. Reach out and let's get started on your wellness journey so you can finally live the life you want. Hey there, I'm your host Des. You are listening to episode number 178, and on today's episode, I am speaking with Suse Silva. Suse is here to speak with us about somatic practices, tapping into the body, releasing energy, releasing anxiety, releasing trauma from the body. This is going to be a really great conversation. I love talking about body work, body practices, reconnecting with our bodies. This is a topic that I'm very interested in and passionate about, and I've been incorporating somatic practices into my sessions with my clients because I see how beneficial that it is. I hope you enjoy this episode and learn a lot from it, and that somatic practices are beneficial for you. Help me welcome on Suse. All right, everyone, I am here with Suse Silva. Suse, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Des.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So to get us started, I would love if you can introduce yourself, share who you are, share your story with us, how you got to where you are today.
My name is Suse Silva. How I got to where I am today is a great question and always kind of a difficult one to answer just because life has been such a winding road, ups and downs, hills and valleys. But what I'd like to share with your viewers today is kind of my journey through receiving a diagnosis, pretty severe mental illness diagnosis of type 1 bipolar disorder, and how I kind of navigated that. So in 2010, I was completing my undergrad of fine arts degree and had a pretty intense spiritual emergency is how I like to reframe it now, but doctors would call it mania or psychosis. And I had several episodes of these that throughout a year, and eventually one of them got me locked up in a hospital for 7 days. And that experience was quite traumatic, just moving through hospitalization and not having any consent. My body was physically moved from one hospital to another while I was tranquilized without any consent. So that memory is still kind of haunting me to this day, that was even something that was allowed. And witnessing how other people were being treated and also my own experiences led to a lot of undiagnosed PTSD. And afterwards, all I received from psychiatrists and hospital was several drugs to take and a follow-up appointment. With the follow-up appointments, my psychiatrist only was concerned about how the medication was treating me, which is fair. That's, what's under their umbrella. They're there to prescribe medication, and never asked me anything about what led me to have those experiences, anything from my past, anything to do with my family. I thought that was kind of strange. And I began to explore alternative modalities. And that kind of started slowly. It first started with my yoga teacher training journey. So I went and began studying yoga and yoga philosophy. Yoga was something that I had practiced prior to those spiritual emergencies or experiences with altered states. It was just something physical that I enjoyed doing. And once I got into yoga school, my whole perspective on life began to shift. It really is a well-rounded modality in how to be a human and how to live well in this world with all of the challenges that we come across. So it was more than just the physical practice. My spiritual emergency began to have some groundwork or framework that I could put into or around, if that makes sense. So having the knowledge of different experiences that humans may go through the yogic perspective helped me to reframe the experiences that I had that were diagnosed as psychosis. And with that, I just began to continue to explore what else was out there. So as I began to study yoga and implement practices of pranayama or breath work, meditation, specific ways of eating, different recommendations for things to do at specific times of days. So really following kind of like the Ayurvedic, the science of yoga, similar to traditional Chinese medicine, to create this structure and holistic way of living. Once I started to implement these practices, I was able to reduce my medications that I was on. So within 6 months of being diagnosed, I was on the lowest dose of an antipsychotic medication called quetiapine. So I was on that low dose for 10 years. I stayed on it because I was terrified of having those altered state experiences again, and more so having the experience of being locked up in a hospital again.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. I mean, it sounds very intense and traumatic, that whole experience.
Yeah, it really was. I've been processing a lot of it still. It's an unfolding thing that I'm continuing to kind of unpack and look at. And right now I'm at a place where I'm actually acknowledging the trauma that I experienced, where before, so right after I was diagnosed, I was actually quite grateful to receive that diagnosis because it gave me something, right? After experiencing things that felt very bizarre and peculiar and that no one else around me seemed to be experienced, it kind of gave me like a launching point. So I started to do my own research, look into what bipolar disorder even is and what the symptoms are, and some of the things that were described I experienced, and then I experienced some other things that were quite beautiful and profound, and things that were very meaningful to me and helps to explain a lot of previous traumas that I experienced and also ancestral wounds that I was unaware of.
Can we dive a little deeper here? I would love to hear more about this. So, you started discovering past wounds, past traumas, ancestral traumas. At what point in your journey was this that you started exploring these kind of underlying things that were going on? And at what point did you realize that you wanted to even go there, wanted to even explore? Like how did you get to that point?
I think it was always very intriguing for me to have had those experiences. It really felt like almost like a entry point or a gateway or a portal into these other avenues that I had overlooked or past traumas and things that I had overlooked.
What did your life look like before your diagnosis? Were there any signs or symptoms that you were experiencing that you weren't aware were bipolar disorder?
That's the tricky thing. So I've tried to look at that. And even when I was diagnosed, there really wasn't anything that were kind of red flags that something may be happening or nothing, at least overtly. So years prior, I guess, I did have pretty low lows, depression throughout my teens. But then I felt like, I was kind of coming out of that and feeling really good once like moving out of my family home and going to school. And, I think it's a delicate time in most people's lives when transitioning into adulthood, moving away from your childhood home and really gaining your own independence. So, a couple things that, looking back, I could say most likely contributed to that was partying, drinking a lot more alcohol than I did before, and a lot of binge drinking and experimenting with drug use, which is something I didn't do throughout my teens. So, cannabis and as well as cocaine, which I am more than happy to admit I only did it twice, but I can say that it was after those experiences that these altered states began to happen. It wasn't ever during using those drugs, but it was like when I was sober. So that was kind of the confusing part. Yeah, I didn't have these like big experiences besides, the typical experiences that you would have on cannabis or cocaine. But afterwards, like weeks later, without using them, I began to have these altered states. So perhaps it was drug induced psychosis. I also do have a family history of schizophrenia and bipolar. Although research shows that there is no gene or there can still be a predisposition. And I think for me, through just my own healing and journey, it's definitely ancestral wounding more so that is being passed down and being exposed in this specific way.
Okay, gotcha. And so, how did you discover that? I know you said you did yoga kind of throughout, but how did you discover that movement was healing for you?
Yeah, I felt like movement has always been healing for me. So I grew up dancing previously to doing yoga, and there was something really enjoyable about the process for me. Yeah, moving my body and expressing how I feel through my body has always been a part of me. And I find it almost a lot easier to express through the body, almost more so than with words. I gesture a lot when I talk. Yeah, and just feeling experiences and moving them through my body is a lot easier for me than to articulate them. And this is how I got into the work that I do as well. Having those visceral experiences of clearing trauma from my body without necessarily even knowing what the trauma was. So, through exercises like trauma release exercises and various yogic postures or somatic practices. Somatic being body-based practices. So moving the body in specific ways linked with breath, sometimes even linked with vocal toning or chanting specific mantras has really helped to unlock and clear out blockages within the body. So this can be on an energetic level, as well as rewiring the brain and also regulating the nervous system. So a lot of the work that I do for myself and for my clients is building that resiliency. So a lot of vagal toning through these practices as well, which is the main approach that I take to nervous system regulation.
Great. Thank you for explaining that and talking about that. Somatic practices are so interesting to me. So, are you able to explain what a somatic session might look like for a client that has those blockages, holds trauma in their body?
Yeah, it's very specific to the client and what they may be going through. But it could be something as simple as like a specific type of breath that's linked to specific movements. This can be found in like Kundalini yoga or Kriyas that are performed. And this really helps to clear that energy out through the body. Other ones like trauma release exercises are a really great somatic practice, which is a way of allowing the body to create these natural occurring tremors, and the tremors throughout the psoas, so kind of like the hip flexor area, the muscles that allow us to stand upright, kind of exhausting those first to then be in a specific shape that creates this tremor and shake in the body. And typically it kind of starts in the hips, but sometimes it can move up the torso as well. There's quite a few different things we can do. One that is really simple that I share anytime I'm doing an event or a workshop is just to orient ourselves within our space. So that one requires just kind of looking around our space. So maybe gazing at something, like right now I'm looking at a flower outside my window, looking at that specific thing, taking in its details, but then connecting in with your own breath and feeling into your own body at the same time. So really kind of taking that moment to spatially observe where we are while also still staying in our bodies. A lot of us struggle with being in the body. A lot of times we spend time in the mind with the thoughts racing and things on loop. And very rarely are we able to just kind of feel into the sensations in the body. So that orienting practice of looking at something, maybe even kind of looking all around your space, but focusing on a color or a shape or a specific thing, and then breathing and feeling into the sensations in the body while gazing at that specific thing.
Oh, great. I love that. And I'm really glad that you brought that up because that's something I talk about a lot is that we are so disconnected from our bodies. And do you have any sort of ideas or contributing factors as to why somebody would feel so uncomfortable to be present in their body and why we mostly focus and kind of spend time in our minds?
The loop, negative self talk that we spin around in our minds is one. Influences from media, being overstimulated, engaging in different relationships, social activities, kind of balancing those things can contribute to it. There's a lot of things that really keep us stuck in the mind. And it is so crucial for everyone, I believe, to have a body based practice, a regular daily body based practice. That can be something as simple as getting out in nature and going for a walk, but not just listening to music or a podcast while doing it. Like that's great every now and then too, but taking that time to actually just be without any stimuli besides feeling into the sensations of the body, moving through space and interacting with the environment. So that's a really simple one, but having a daily body-based practice of any kind is crucial. Taking those moments to breathe and feel into the body to create that space and move us away from the thought loops that we find ourselves trapped in.
Okay, great. And when it comes to somatic practices, somatic sessions, movement, what are the benefits that you're seeing? What are the benefits of somebody engaging in somatic practices?
Yeah, what I find is that people are able to connect with their intuition a lot easier once they engage in body based practices regularly. Getting them out of their minds and into their bodies creates this space where they can actually hear the messages from their heart center, so their intuition. That has been the most profound shift that I've seen in all of my clients is they are like, oh, I actually know what I need to do now because I haven't just been cramming my mind with overthinking, over analyzing, situations, relationships, what I need to do next. They're able to take that break, connect in with the body, and then those moments of inspiration and clarity have space to drop in and sink in. And then they're able to utilize that to move forward in their life in the right direction that makes sense for them.
And so, if somebody is interested in learning more about somatic practices, getting more involved in somatic sessions, or just even wanting to be present in their body, connect more with their body, add more movement, where do you recommend that they could start? Somewhere simple that they could start?
Yeah, again, I would start with walking in nature because nature has a lot of benefits as well. And a lot of this disconnection from our body comes from our disconnection to nature. If we can find a place where there's trees, there's water, and to walk through that space, maybe even walking barefoot to connect to the earth directly, or placing your hands on the earth, or placing your hands around a tree and taking some long, slow breaths and really feeling that reciprocal nature of being connected to the earth. So, as we're breathing in, imagining that we're pulling in the oxygen from the trees. And as we're exhaling, imagining that CO2 coming out and giving life to the trees. And that is such a simple, beautiful practice that we can do and open up to our felt sense of being. So when we are engaging in nature, noticing all of the shapes that we can see, noticing what stands out to us. So using the eyes, listening to all the various sounds within that space that we're in, feeling the temperature, the touch of the air on the skin, feeling the feet kissing the earth with each step. So moving slow enough that we can really feel that connection to the landscape. That is one of the most accessible and easy somatic practices that we can do. And again, one that I would highly recommend that we do daily to build that connection.
Great. Yeah, I really love that. And like we talked about, we're so disconnected from nature. So many of us live these sedentary lifestyles. We have jobs that we sit at our desks all day. We commute to work. So we're in our cars or we're working from home and we're just sitting on the computer. So, yeah, that's a great tip to just get outside, just to walk for a little bit, to actually engage our bodies, be present in our bodies. Do you have any other words of wisdom or tips or advice for those that are kind of feeling kind of stuck and they're maybe wanting to look into alternative practices?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is to, again, take time to sit with yourself, take a moment to kind of disconnect from social media or any kind of media, and give yourself space to be alone. This can be anywhere, it can be in your home. Breathe. And another great practice is to just start journaling and to see what you need, asking yourself some simple questions like, what is going to best serve me in this moment? And just really start to dive deep into those questions and see where it kind of leads you. if you're feeling stuck, really seek out support. There are a lot of different types of healing arts modalities. So, body based somatic practices are one. There's a lot of other approaches to healing that you can explore, or finding a therapist. And sometimes I know, like on my journey, you might find therapists or healers, or whatever you want to call them, coaches, that don't always click or resonate with you. Just keep searching and finding the support that really does resonate with you and that you feel like you can connect with. That is probably my biggest advice: is don't just stop if you get one bad experience with one practitioner. Keep searching for that support. Find community of others that are also doing this type of work or have had similar experiences. For me, it took many years, so about like 14 years into this healing journey, where I've actually started participating in a peer support group. And that has really shifted a lot for me. At the beginning, I was just journeying on my own and, finding different practitioners, which was really helpful. And, I was really deepening my intuition and finding what was right for me. And now having community and peer support has added this other beautiful level to my healing journey. And also, it really is a journey. Probably hear this a lot, and it sounds kind of cliche at this point, but it's an ongoing and unfolding process. I'm still processing things from my experience, because right after my diagnosis and hospitalization, I actually went back to my childhood and started unpacking a lot of that and ancestral wounds, like I mentioned. So now I'm actually kind of at the point of, okay, now I'm processing what happened in my early 20s with that hospitalization diagnosis, and then other experiences that I had throughout then. So it's quite interesting, this healing journey. You kind of move from like present day to past to future to present day, past to future. At least that's been my trajectory on this path. It's not always easy. And even as you start to learn some of these tools, there's not going to be one quick fix. It's another important piece that I always tell my clients and friends and peers. Like, it really is a journey. There's not just going to be one thing that's going to fix you and heal you forever. It's a way of living and a lifestyle of holistic habits and practices that you need to begin to adopt to live a well and balanced life.
Yes, absolutely. I fully agree with so much of what you're saying. I think a lot of people do kind of look for that quick fix, but I think we're kind of moving away from that. And I think people are prioritizing and putting more value on holistic practices, which is why I'm so glad you're here today to talk about other approaches and that it is a journey and it does take time. And sometimes that is a lifelong journey because, like you said, we go to the past and then the future and the present and back and forth. And it's not always linear, and that's okay. And I fully agree with what you said as well. That's something I always say, that if you meet with somebody and there's just not a connection or it's not working out for you, it's okay to explore other practitioners, other types of approaches, other connections. It's okay to try it out, and you will eventually find the right fit for you. And sometimes that is also dependent on the place that you're at in your life. Maybe one approach is better suited for you now, and a different approach is maybe better suited in the future. So it's good to experiment with different things and different practitioners.
Absolutely. And that's what's helped me the most. Like, I've worked with all kinds of practitioners, like acupuncturists, nutritionists. I don't facilitate those practices, but they have been really supportive, as well as body work, and massage. And, again, it really is that holistic approach that we need to take to really nurturing our well-being.
Absolutely. We have such a strong mind body connection. And even though we are, a lot of times, a lot of us are disconnected from our bodies are still communicating with us. They're still feeling. We're just not being present in our bodies. So, that mind body connection is something that I think people should kind of shift towards, maybe prioritizing that relationship and that connection.
yeah, I like that you brought up that point that our body is always speaking to us. And often there's things that our bodies are warning us about that we're just continuously ignoring. And then often when we ignore those small whispers for a long time, different ailments will arise within us. So if it's altered states or some form of quote unquote mental illness, or an accident that we experience, or a physical ailment, things like that, it will arise and kind of come to this like bubbling up or boiling point. So then we can finally start to look within and listen to those parts of us that have been calling out and trying to send us messages. And again, doing these body-based practices regularly gives us that chance to check in and be like, what am I not seeing? What am I not paying attention to right now? But we need to give ourselves that space. And I feel like when we're able to move from the mind into the body, into the heart, we're able to create a greater capacity for our own knowledge and wisdom and answers to the questions that we've been asking. A lot of us are asking these big life questions like, why am I here? What's the point of all this? But then we're not actually giving ourselves space to hear the answers arise from our bodies. We have these questions, but then we're just locked in on our phones, or we're just overworking ourselves, or we're spending a lot of time socializing and connecting with other people and taking on other people's dramas and life stories. And, we're not giving ourselves that space to just be with the answers that lie within each one of us.
That space, that time is so important, just to be quiet and to hear what not only our thoughts are telling us, but our bodies. So important. I love that. Susie, this has been such a great conversation, such an important conversation. I would love if you could share where everyone can find you.
Yeah, best way to find me is my website. So Suse, spelled Suse, Silva, Silva.com. I'm also on Instagram under the same name, Suse Silva. And yeah, those are the two best places. Feel free to connect, reach out. More than happy to answer any questions that anyone has that may have sparked with this call.
Perfect. And everyone, I am going to link all of Susie's links in the show notes, so definitely go check her out and connect with her. Susie, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Des. I
I really hope that you liked this episode and gained a lot of value from it. If you did like this episode, please share it on social media. You can tag me at The Wellness Project with Des on Instagram and at According to Des on Facebook. If you do enjoy my podcast and gain value from it, I would greatly appreciate your support. You can show your love and support by buying me a coffee. This will help my podcast to grow and in turn will help me to keep bringing on amazing guests. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/The Wellness Project with Des to show your support. All books written by or recommended by my amazing podcast guests are listed on my Amazon storefront. Go to the link in the show notes to check out those books. I would love to extend an invite to you to become a part of my community. You can do this through Facebook, where we will be discussing this episode. I would love for you to share your insights, any aha moments, any thoughts or ideas you would like to contribute. You can contribute in the discussion taking place in my Facebook group, and it's a great place to connect with me because I am in there every day with mental health and wellness content, discussions, reflections, journal prompts. It's a fun and supportive place to be. You can find the group at facebook.com/groups/According to Des, and that link will also be in the show notes. You can also check out more of what I'm doing on my website, accordingtodes.com. You'll find a lot of wellness blogs, written interviews, detailed podcast show notes, and my shop, where you will be able to find workshops, my self-care course, digital downloads, ebooks. There's a lot going on my website, so make sure you check that out at accordingtodes.com. And while you're there, join my email list to stay in the know about what I have going on and available for you. When you sign up, you will get your free ebook, The 5 Stress Reduction Techniques to help you feel more relaxed. Thank you so much for being here. I will talk to you next week, so until then, I hope you have a calm and peaceful week.